Okay, Mas Ego, go ahead.
Good afternoon and good morning to all participants joining our event today and to all the speakers as well. My name is Ego and I'm a postgraduate student at Theatre and Performance, Goldsmiths, University of London. Today I'll be acting as the moderator for today's webinar. Um, Over the past 2 decades, Indonesia's labor market has been characterized by a considerable degree of turbulence and structural change, created by important shifts in the industrial and occupational composition of employment, technological change in the workplace, corporate restructuring, and the continued globalization of economic activity. Today, we will cover topics related to on the market labor trend in Indonesia, skills employers seek from a good candidate, foundation skills on the workplace, and other relevant updates from our speakers to help you determine your career path. Now, our first speaker, wait, before that, I would like to address the house rules. Next, please. All right. These are the house rules that all the participants should be aware of. First, please turn off your microphone and video during the session. Second, please type your questions in the Q&A box. The moderator will summarize the questions for the speakers. And lastly, this session is being video recorded. By attending this session, you acknowledge that your image and comments may be recorded and rebroadcast. Now I would like to continue on introducing our speakers. Next, please. Our first speaker is Mr. Chris Ren. Ren now has 22 years of business experience related to Indonesia. Chris Turner, Chris in-country experience includes startups, turnarounds, and business development across most sectors, and with particular commercial experience in education collaborations. Chris has held executive and non-executive board positions, including as director of PT Southeast Asia Business Institute and acting as commissioner for PT The Reds Indonesia ahead of LFC's Southeast Asia tour. His in-country experience and understanding of how to do business is vast across all sectors. He nurtures Pritcham's extensive private and public sectors business networks and can usually assure access at the highest level. He is also a co-founder of Pritcham's Giving Kids a Sporting Chance community portfolio and has been actively involved in field hockey development at grassroots levels. Next, our second speaker is Dr. Paul Atkin, um, a consultant and mentor to founder, owner, entrepreneurs, C-suite executives, and their managers on creating sustainable commercial and public goods with public good value across sectors in multicultural settings, using agility um, leadership practices, consultancy, coaching, training, and continuous in-work development programs. He is also advisor to Prime Minister's Department of CEO Public Sector Change Leadership Development. Um, Lastly, our third speaker, Ms. Tessa Artella. Tessa has played key roles in numerous recruitment improvement projects and employer branding activities. For instance, she recently successfully developed and implemented management training program for a tech. Prior to her current role, Tessa worked with Korn Ferry Singapore for more than 3 years in the professional search division, where she was responsible for the recruitment of middle management positions across Southeast Asia. Now, without further ado, I would like to give the time and space for our first speaker to deliver his presentation. Mr. Chris Rand, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Ego. Actually, it's not going to be a Chris exclusive presentation. What we've decided would be more interesting for the British Council attendees on this is to perhaps have an opportunity for myself and Dr. Paul Aitken to have a conversation between us about the issues relating to what make the right skills and also what makes a good candidate. So we're going to work this together in collaboration here. What I would like to say, thanks for the introduction, Ego, and of course everything that you said in terms of my background is very true. The Britcham role that I have is now just coming up to the end of 14 years and has been an absolutely wonderful journey because it keeps me very, very close to all in the private sector across all sectors, but also with our vast stakeholder networks, being government, trade associations, other chambers, both here in Indonesia, which is where I am now, and also in the UK, puts me in an excellent position to be able to constantly gauge and assess and react to the climate as it relates to business and employment. The thing that I'd like to say first is that from a chamber point of view, we have been doing a piece of work which we call the Business Confidence Index. We've been doing it for 7 years now, and this has been something that it tests sentiment among initially British businesses domiciled in Indonesia, most of whom will have UK headquarters, and it's testing their sentiment going forward. In other words, how's Indonesia doing? Are we going to invest more? Are we going to employ more people? Are those people we're going to employ going to earn money, more money, and so on? And every single year, if we take out the obvious questions that get asked, and I won't bore you guys and gals with this today, but if you take down the usual issues, politics, law, and so on, the issue that comes up time and time again is the issue of talent acquisition, talent development, and talent retention. It has been and remains a top subject in Indonesia, and we are in no doubt that the talent pool remains relatively shallow, and in ordinary circumstances what that also means is that there is a lot of opportunity for well-qualified, well-skilled and well-prepared young people looking to go into the marketplace. However, I would also say that our current reality is that this is a world that's going to be challenged in terms of employment opportunities as well. So never before have you been perhaps in a situation where your preparedness to get started on your career and to compete with others in getting a job could be more important. Paul, perhaps you'd just like to elaborate a little bit.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks very much. And good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the southwest of England, which you can just see in the background here. Yeah, I wanted to start just by saying a little bit something about these extraordinary times, because actually, when I think back to the 1980s, when I was a young graduate, it was actually just as tough, but for different reasons. So I found myself being unemployed for around about 9 months after first graduating. So if today I can pass on any sort of any tips or hints as to what you might do if you're finding it hard to get work, we can perhaps talk about some of those things as well. But yeah, talent's always been looked for. The thing about today's session is, though, that it's about you being as fully prepared as you can be for for entering the labour market, wherever that is, because the world of human resources and selection and development, as Tessa will know, is quite sophisticated now in actually looking at best fit, people's best fit to different roles, organisations and sectors. So I think it'd be good, when we dive down into that, to try and pull out some some key skills that that employers are looking for. So just to kick off on that, if I just outline what I've observed lately, is that, and this applies not just to graduates, but to postgraduates and anybody else trying to get a job. I mean, the first thing is, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you've studied in terms of subjects. The employer will be interested, of course, in your topic or your dissertation. But what they're more interested in is what I call practical intelligence. Let me just explain what I mean by employers will be looking for practical intelligence. So as well as being interested in what you've studied, they'll be far more interested in how you can apply what you've learnt to solve everyday workplace problems and challenges, or indeed create new business opportunities, you know, for the organization. So it's more about you thinking through, well, from what I've learned, what is the most helpful thing that I can actually provide to this particular employer that I'm applying to. And you'll need really to be able to talk in some detail as well about how you see what you've learnt can help them build commercial value, or if it's in the public sector, can help them become better at serving the public. So I think that's the first real skill, if you like, that people are looking for. It's that practical intelligence. So that's the first thing. Chris, did you want to say anything about that before I move on to a couple of other ones?
Am I mute?
No.
No. Okay. No, I think that's very important, what you've outlined, Paul. I'd just like to not contradict what you've said in relation to it doesn't really matter what you've studied, but just to flesh it out just a little bit.
Yeah.
I would certainly agree that it is rare that somebody is taken on purely because of the actual qualification and its description. However, as we know from the Human Capital and Education Centre that we have rolling at full steam at Britcham, we also know that a country like Indonesia has very, very specific skills gaps, and I'm sure
yes.
Tess is going to highlight some of those. And obviously, in a competitive jobs marketplace, it makes a little bit more sense to be somewhere there or thereabouts. Sure. In what you choose to study, in terms of it being a gap for the nation, and therefore there's going to be more demand for people with those with an interest and with a qualification in that particular gap. That was the only point that I wanted to make, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter exactly what you got, but you could be generally targeted around where the demand is likely to be. That would represent a smart decision, I think.
Yeah, and of course there are sources of information that people can get a hold of in terms of those skill shortages. Yes, Chris? Yeah,
certainly there are indeed.
Yeah. No, what I meant was if you get, for example, if you get, I mean, here's something that's going to be in even more demand. I mean, you know, graduates who have perhaps, you know, looking at, let's call it the sustainability or the green industries, which are, you know, are going to grow. I mean, the demand for talent in that sector is going to grow. I think what I was saying was, if you get two candidates, if you get two candidates, say they've studied, you know, environmental law and have done some tech, you know, some AI sort of subjects. If you get two identical candidates, the person that stands out will be the one that can explain what it is they've learned from that subject specifically that can be immediately used in the business context. That's what I meant. Yeah, rather than a sort of a general, sort of comment about it doesn't matter. Of course, it matters, but it matters in a competitive environment, and it's hyper competitive at the moment. That you're able to offer some quick wins. Let's call it quick wins.
Yeah.
For the employer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's well clarified. And if we use that example, Paul, of two candidates that are looking seemingly identical in terms of what they've done, then of course it's all those peripheral things in terms of how they've adapted to life, how they've adapted to cultures, what non-academic things that they have done that has probably impacted their character development as well. Would you agree?
Definitely. I think the employers will be looking at the person in the round, to make perhaps that final judgment as to who we take, and who we don't take. So just building on that idea, I think the other thing is that you have to have done your homework on the organization. You have to have read the business plan. You have to have read their vision and mission statements. You have to have drilled down as much as you can about their business performance. In other words, you need to be completely up to date with what this business is doing and how well it's doing. And its future direction. You really need to have done your homework, because you'll be asked questions on it. But the other thing is, coming back to the person, they'll be also looking for what I call the passion that you have for the particular role that you're applying for. Not just the passion for the role, but also the passion perhaps for the team setting. And for the culture of the organization, and the passion for the strategy that the organization is attempting to deliver, whatever the products and services are that it's attempting to deliver. It's that genuine passion. I call it intrinsic motivation. It's what is going to get you out of bed in the morning to do your very best day in, day out for this particular employer. So employers will want to hear about, well, why us? That'll be the question. Why us? Why are you applying to us and not anyone else? So I think that there are two angles on it to answer that question of why us. First is, do your homework on the nature of the business. Second, think about why you are motivated to want to apply. Because again, in terms of selection processes, competitive situation, it'll be the people that are more believable about their passion for this employer that will get through to the next phase of the selection process.
And Paul, I think there's a third question, isn't there, that really needs to be dealt with by the interviewee, and that is, companies make a huge investment in the recruitment and the training and the development of individuals. And that third question is, what value you can add to the business? Right. Which again comes back to your homework of understanding the company, understanding what their business is, understanding what their corporate culture is and the direction it's going, and then what you can add to in terms of value to that business.
Absolutely right. So here what we're talking about, Chris, I think is value add, but also values add. Your personal values. It's value and values, right? It's the value add commercially or in the public sector or other sectors. About what I said, being able to offer some key skills that will enable the business to do well quickly, and this speed is of the essence now, because the world is just hyper competitive. But it's also your personal values and whether they fit, whether they're aligned to the business culture and the purpose and vision of the organization. So I think it's value and values fit. Yeah, yeah. That's very, very important.
So I think we sort of, between us, we've gone into what makes a good candidate from an academic and choice of major and preparation for interview and so on. But what about some of those character traits, Paul, the values side, the things that are not that are not defined on a certificate of education and so on? Well, what are they? Let's talk about them.
Sure. No, let's do that. So I had, as I say, in preparing for today, I had these three things in mind. The first one we've covered, which is practical intelligence. We just talked about intrinsic motivation, value and values add. But the third thing is the third thing, which will make you stand out, and it's related to the whole person. It's related to the other things that you've done in life. And that's your ability to influence others to get work done, because you're not going to be. It's very rare. I mean, obviously there are some roles where you're just working solely, as an individual, but there are very few roles where you haven't got to work very closely with peers, and then up and down as well, reporting line managers. A lot of work is delivered through projects these days. And I know many of you will have been also, working in project teams to deliver assignments at uni. So all those things about being able to influence other people to get work done. And you can't get your work done often without encouraging other people to join with you and collaborate, right? So your own output, your own performance very much depends on who you can influence to connect with you and do good work with. Now, I mean, in a simple word, that's called leadership, right? And being able to influence other people to pull something off, a project or produce a new product or contribute to a new service line, that's leadership, and we acquire our leadership skills from all sorts of different life experiences, right? All sorts of different life experiences. It's not just about have you led a team in a business or an organization. Have you led people in other walks of life? Have you influenced, your friends, your colleagues to do things outside of work? Have you been part of, advocacy groups? Have you done charity work? What have you done? What have you done to influence people to do things well or to do the right thing? I mean, these leadership skills are so important, and maybe we can go on a little bit later to drill down into the essence of those. But that ability to get work done through others, rather than seeing yourself as a lone operator, is crucial, because you'll be much more useful in and around the business, because these days it's unlikely that your role isn't going to change. So these transferable skills like leadership are going to be vital for your future.
Paul, I agree with everything that you said. As an employer, personally, and on behalf of the Chamber, generally speaking, we have a rather young office, the vast majority under 32, 33. And whenever we're we have a role available, the volume of applicants is very significant, and many of them have whatever we've put down as the prerequisite qualifications in terms of its relevance, its standard, and so on and so forth. And I suppose it's all very well you and I talking about life skills. We've had much longer lives, haven't we, Paul?
Yeah, that's right. Look at the grey hairs, right?
But of course, many of these attendees are, I think I'm correct in saying, could be from age 17 to 23, 25, something like that. And those lives are obviously relatively shorter, and there's only so much that they can reasonably have done. So really, just to say that often what actually gets somebody through the door for an interview is their willingness to have put themselves out there and participated in things like committees, or entered competitions, got involved in things that represent team activities, these sorts of things are what we're really talking about, aren't we? In terms of
evidence of actually taking responsibility, you know, for yourself and other people or other parts of society. Definitely, because you're showing the drive to improve a situation, right? It doesn't matter what that situation is. I mean, it could be a sporting situation, it could be a community situation, but you're actually showing genuine personal commitment to improving someone or something or some group or some team, and I think, you know, that type of involvement you know, is vital, because it also helps you grow, doesn't it, as a person. And I mean, the good news about all the people attending today is at least they've already stepped out of their comfort zone. You know, studying overseas is no mean achievement. I mean, I know, because I've moved around the world, and I mean, changing countries, you know, learning new languages. You're already showing your commitment to your own learning, but this extra bit that you can show in terms of having taken responsibility to improve someone, something, some place, some community is gonna really make you stand out.
And of course, a byproduct of getting involved in these extracurricular activities, you know, such as we mentioned, committees, student groups, organizations on campus, small charitable programs. It doesn't have to be big at all, actually.
No.
But a natural consequence of doing things with other people, that perhaps are not in your immediate daily environment, means that almost certainly you will inevitably improve another area of yourself that is so important when you are in that competitive workplace situation, and that's communication and interpersonal skills, isn't it?
Definitely. So for me, there are three foundation skills which support all of that we've talked about, in the sense of leadership and taking personal responsibility for other people, with other people, and so there's three things for me. The first thing is, it sounds fairly obvious, doesn't it? But communication skills, right? And remember, this is not just about speaking. It's actually even more about listening. You know, how well are you able to listen to other people's points of view? How well are you able to communicate your own thoughts and ideas in one-to-one situations, in small groups, in large groups, through presentations? These are all skills which you need to invest time and energy and practice in developing. So when I say communication skills, say don't forget listening skills, skills of reflection, not coming out sometimes with the first thought that enters your head, which you might be tempted to do in an interview situation, for example. You know, just taking a moment and being composed and reflecting on what you're about to say before you say it. So listening, communicating, reflecting, I put all that in the communication skills, because it's about clarifying expectations that other people may have of you and that you may have of them. And that's particularly important at work, because you're going to have some KPIs, key performance indicators, some key projects and tasks that you've got to perform well in. And so being able to get clear on what the expectations are in terms of successfully achieving those things are vital. And remember, you're doing it with other people in the main. So being able to listen, reflect, and communicate is vital. And that leads on to the next one, which for me, you need to have perhaps built up, continue to build, and it's so crucial that you can demonstrate that you've built long-lasting relationships with people. So relationship building is key. Now that doesn't mean that when you're at work that you're going to perhaps go into teams that have been going for a long time, because there's a lot of change inside organizations. So many teams, set up projects very quickly. Then the membership of that team changes and they move on and they go off and do something else. So your ability to build relationships successfully, genuinely, with authenticity is vital, because then people can learn to trust you, and trust is one of these human elements that robots can't replace. You know, you can trust a robot to do things efficiently, but can you trust a robot to do the right things? You know, that's about building relationships, isn't it? Do I really believe that my teammate is going to deliver for me, is going to do the right thing when I ask them to do it? You know, how trustworthy am I when I say I'm going to do something? Do I follow through? Do I actually follow through and do what I say?
Well, do you?
Sorry, Chris. Yeah, go on.
Do you?
Do I?
How trustworthy are you? Do you?
Well, I do my level best, my friend.
Paul, I'm just mindful of time, and yeah. I think a couple of things that you and I agreed we'd like to cover. I think that's fairly clear. It's the extracurricular and what that can do to drive character building traits within us, which is the interpersonal skills, the communication skills, influence, teamwork, trust, that is demonstrated through relationships and so on. I think one thing that will always concern younger adults that have not worked is, can they be trusted to actually do a job, and what sorts of things might they be trying to do to allay the fears of a potential employer, right, or the lack of competitiveness if they haven't worked.
Right.
And you know, I know from from a British Chamber Human Capital and Education Centre point of view, we are working very, very hard to make sure that the students that we are helping to go into universities in the UK are also having opportunities to do practical internships, yes, whether formal or informal during holiday time. And I'd like to put this to you, Paul, even if the only work you can get is not necessarily directly related to what you've got a passion for, give it a go anyway, just to prove that you can actually be a trusted person in the workplace. What do you have to say about all of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have some gaps in your life at the moment, right? If you're not working. I mean, there are a number of gaps you're going to have, right? Obviously, you're not actually going to a workplace either at the moment. I mean, that's the other thing. So a lot of people are actually on their own, you know, with time to kill and gaps in you know, even their ability to talk to other people. So how you're occupying your time, you're going to be asked that question. I mean, you're going to be invariably asked the question, well, how are you occupying your time? And so I agree with you, Chris. I think being disciplined about, if you have got a lot of time on your hands, is doing something productive with it. And it might not be necessarily related to a particular subject that you've studied or a job that you're looking out to get into. I mean, my own example is, I said to you, I was unemployed for 9 months, right, in the 1980s. Seems like a history lesson, this, but anyway, bear with me. I mean, I was unemployed, but this is what I did, right? Well, what I did was I did two things, actually. The first thing is I volunteered to do some youth work with long-term unemployed youngsters. So I actually volunteered to be a youth and community worker. It was unpaid. It was unpaid, and it even involved things like, you know, playing pool with people who, you know, had a bad start in life, and also, of course, fortunately, I was pretty good at football, so I started to do some football coaching with males and females and mixed teams, unpaid again. And those experiences did a couple of things. That they make you feel better about yourself because you're making a contribution, right? You're actually making a contribution, and you're developing your own skills. I mean, lo and behold, many years later, coaching managers to be better leaders is what I did. So I was learning. I didn't know it at the time, but what I was learning was were coaching skills, right? I was learning coaching skills. So I think being productive, even thinking about, like, as you said, ways of keeping your learning going. Whatever, be imaginative. Think of different ways that you can keep your learning going, your personal development going, but also your formal learning going. Think of any which way. And eventually I applied for a non-graduate job. You've got to be agile, right, in today's world. I applied for a this is with Shell UK, with Shell, the oil company. I applied for a non-graduate job. So I was overqualified, but it got me going. It got me going in the workplace, you know, not with much pay, but I met people. I learned more about organizational life. And so I think, yeah, really brainstorm how you can use your time productively. And it'll pay off in the end.
I again agree 100%. A little bit like you, I grew up at a time on Merseyside when it was in the doldrums, and unemployment was very, very high, and basically you did something rather than you did nothing, and actually that says an awful lot about somebody's character. So if there is less choice in present times, then take the opportunities that do present themselves, because that will probably pay dividends later on. Again, we're probably going to get wound up by Ego very, very soon. So just for me, if I may, Paul, to share with the attendees on this, if you're people that are still undecided yet as to what you want to do, or if you're for your first degree, or if you're considering what you might want to do for your master's degrees, actually Britchem, through its Human Capital and Education Centre, has been putting together a series of offers that are very much geared around employability, both the universities that are on our panel and also the skill sets that represent gaps and opportunities in Indonesia. And they revolve around green and the environment, technologies, AI, AR, other life sciences, hospitality, tourism, gaming, exciting, supply chain management, sports science, architecture, and animation. There's a whole range there. If any of those resonate with any of you, then please come and talk to us. Or I didn't introduce you to my colleague here, Chenny, on my right. Ego, I think we're just about the right timing to hand back over to you. I don't know whether you want us for any Q&A or you'd like to go straight to Tessa.
Yeah, I think I would like to go to continue the session with Tessa. If you're ready, you can start your presentation now, and then we'll have the Q&A session afterwards.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I think I have sent my deck. So I think, Vega, maybe if you can share the screen. Yep, okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining this session. This is really an honor for me to be here as well, because this is the first time that I'm actually speaking on behalf of Korn Ferry, in this event. So maybe just quickly, if we can go to the next slide, just a little bit about myself. So I think as Ego have introduced me before, my name is Tessa. So just a little bit about myself. I graduated from NTU in Singapore, and then I joined Korn Ferry Singapore for around 3 years back in 2012, 2015. I was then left to pursue my master degree. So I received Erasmus Plus scholarship. I did my master in Spain and France for 2 years. And then finally in 2017, I returned to Indonesia after 12 years abroad. And then, last year I rejoined CAF. Yeah. So now I'm the service delivery lead for our RPO business in Indonesia. So if we can go to the next slide, I am just going to share with you about our latest research, in terms of Indonesia talent crunch, and then we'll jump into the exciting stuff, because I believe that most of the attendees here, I saw in the comments, right, in the Q&A box, that there are a lot of people who are actually asking about what is the trend of hiring right now. So we are going to discuss later on that one as well. Yeah. Okay, so if we can go to the next slide, Vega. Yeah, so at the end of 2016, which is like around 4 years ago, Korn Ferry actually asked quite a lot global business leaders. So, considering all the assets at their disposal, right, what will be, which one do they think is the most important thing? Yeah, and of course, considering that now it seems that technological advancement is really, really key. 60% of the CEO or the global business leader actually told us that technology will be the chief driver of value for their business for the future of work. Okay, but then surprisingly, when we model the true value of an organization assets, we actually discovered that technology fell way short of the value created, while human capital is actually the most critical asset for them, for organizations. So if we can go to the next slide, we actually discovered that people are more than twice as valuable to the global economy than technology, and it's resulting into 1.2 trillion US dollars. Okay, which is, I think this is a really, really key message to all of us as well, that yes, technology is important, but actually human, or basically we as the people, we are way, way more valuable to the companies as well. Yeah. And if we can go to the next slide. Yep. So then what happened, right? So technology is important, definitely. And then, people is also way more important, but this doesn't make technology redundant, right? So it's basically quite the opposite. If organizations can actually make the most of technological advancement and reap the benefits of the increased productivity, it will definitely require the right people with the right level of skills to make that happen. Yeah. So of course, many people will argue that yes, labor deficit will be filled by automation. Now there is AI, there, robots. We also, discussed about that earlier, and definitely machine learning as well. It's like everyone wants to have data science. Everyone wants to have someone with machine learning experience, but um, I think what we can learn here is yes, technology can substitute labor, but but also it actually can complement the labor itself. Yeah, because as the demand for the technology increase, so does the increase of demand for the labor itself. Okay, so if we go, and then the other thing that I want to highlight as well, I mean, based on the research. So now, if the technology is there, but what if there are not enough people to enable the organization to actually reap the benefits that the technology can deliver, right? We know that some industries are really really struggling to find sufficient number of people with the skills required. So now I think the questions for everyone, it really becomes like, is if we have this talent crunch, if there is a lack of available talent right now and in the future, how it might affect the economy in the future as well. Yeah. um, so if we go to the next slide, we could see that in 2020, this is our global results. So in 2020, we have 3% of talent crunch. It will raise to 6% in 2025 and 11% in 2030. So this is actually really concerning, which I could tell you in the next slide. If we can, so in the next slide, we will focus on Indonesia. Okay, so by 2030, Indonesia could actually lose out of 442 billion USD that will not be realized due to talent shortages. Okay, and in terms of the size of economy itself, Indonesia could fail by 19%. Okay, which is it's really really huge number. Yeah, of course, if we are looking at Indonesia's strong economics, and we are talking, let's say, in the normal period of time without COVID. Okay, there's actually a very clear significant growth opportunities for Indonesia's economies, right? And as you know, the government is actually very very ambitious in their 4.0 initiative, or even now they have like the 5.0 initiative as well. And some of the previous research also mentioned that Indonesia is projected to be the top fifth largest company as economy by in 2030. And then if we are looking at Indonesia's as a young nation, so back in 2013, our average age is actually 28, which is pretty good because it's the productive numbers. We will not have the demographic issues that like the older countries are facing, for example, like Japan, right? But I think again, the talent crunch itself could actually impair the country's ability to take its place on the world stage as well. Okay. So if we go to the next slide, okay. So this is how we are looking at in terms of the level of workers as well as the sector itself. I think one of the questions in the question box is how sorry. Okay, so how do the opportunities for vocational graduates compare to undergraduate uh, compared to undergraduates? Yeah. So if you see here, we have split the research into three categories. So highly skilled workers are basically for those with undergraduates, so with bachelor degree. Middle skilled workers are those that have attained upper secondary education, so it's mostly like high school. And the low skilled workers here is basically those who have lower than upper secondary. So, those with SMP or SD kind of, secondary school or primary school education. Yeah. So if you're looking at this, from a very, high level overview, we can see that in terms of sector, you can see that TMT, or the technology, media, and telecommunication, they will have the highest shortage by 2030. Okay, we are going to have a shortage of 500,000 people. Okay, and then if, let's say, if I would like to answer in terms of the vocational studies, you can see that, for manufacturing, the highest crunch is going to be for the vocational people. Okay, vocational, those with the vocational education. Yeah. But I think, this might look scary for some. This might look, okay, then that means, should we go to TMT all, or should we just go to manufacturing, right? But I think what I want to highlight here is, you have to see that we will have crunch, or, talent deficit in literally almost all sectors. Yeah. So if we all go to TNT, then definitely, we are going to lose more in finance, we are going to lose more in manufacturing, and, the other sectors as well. So again, what I would like to highlight here is, um, each one of us attribute our utmost potential in our specific sector. Okay. And if, let's say, we are, for some of you that, are still deciding on, okay, which universities I want to go next, or, which kind of sectors you want to go next, then definitely, just go with your interests. And definitely, if all of you basically can develop your skill, can develop your competences, and you can show that, you have all the requirements, then definitely there will be something for you in the future. Okay. And then if we can go to the next slide, I think we are going to go to the most exciting part, which is, so how's the hiring trend so far? Yeah. Especially with this COVID. So if you can go to the next slide. Okay. So surprisingly, with the rise of technologies, you will think that, it's going to be easier for the companies to get qualified people, right? But it's actually not. Compared to 1 year ago, 54% of our respondents actually mentioned that it is even harder to find qualified candidates. Okay. So why is that so? I mean, it shouldn't be like that, right? I mean, I still remember back in 2012 when I started with KF, LinkedIn has just started. And I could say that LinkedIn did change the recruiter's way of working. So ages ago, which I believe maybe some of you might not have the memories of, but companies will actually put their job advertisement in the newspaper. I think for Indonesia, normally there is this specific page in Compass every Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, that all are listed with, with all the job postings. Some of the companies will still put, their advertisement in their front gate, especially those in the manufacturing. But nowadays, actually, more and more companies are putting their job advertisement online. Okay, it can be in LinkedIn, or it can be in their career page itself, or or the recruiter itself. They're going to share the LinkedIn job post in their personal profile. Yeah. So fast forward to now to 2020, I believe that you guys will also find jobs in LinkedIn. We also have Indeed, Glassdoor, JobStreet, JobsDB, and previously before the pandemic, we also see a lot of career fair, and now we have virtual career fair. Definitely this COVID situation is kind of like push us to different level in a way that we really need to go out of our comfort zones, right? So a virtual career fair is basically something that we couldn't even imagine maybe until last year, but then now the trend is there. There are a lot of companies, and there are a lot of even organizer, or even universities that are implementing this virtual career fair right now. Okay. So now back to the question, why is it harder now for companies to find qualified candidates, right? So here are the top 10 why. Okay, here are the top 10 reasons. Yeah. One, I will not go through one by one, but I think I could, just highlight a few things here. New skills in a rapidly changing market. Yes, definitely. I think with what we have discussed before as well, like, it seems like a lot of companies want data science or machine learning, and they sometimes you can see the requirements, they need 5 years of experience in machine learning, while maybe machine learning is just like it's a new skill that was just developed 1 to 2 years ago. So definitely it's even harder for the companies also to find the candidates because of this kind of new skills that is required. The economic conditions or uncertainty, what I can share with you, right, because we are working with different clients right now. But at first, I think in March or April, because we have seen, some of the companies are actually retrenching or, reducing the workforce. We thought that, okay, now, for some of the companies or for some of our clients that are still healthy in a way, we thought that, okay, then it's going to be easier for us to find, right? Because then the market is going to be even bigger because there will be a lot of, more people that are actually looking for a job. But it's actually not the same thing. Yes, we do have more candidates applying, okay, but for them, it's even harder for us to get the candidates because then they will need to make sure that the job that they are applying to are secure, and it's also happened with, when we want to find someone that is currently still working, they they are very reluctant to move because they have this uncertainty that, okay, if I move now, then what's going to happen? What if suddenly the company collapse, or what if suddenly I didn't pass my probation, or those kind of things. So this kind of uncertainty making it quite challenging for us to actually find candidates. um, and then the next one that I just want to highlight is basically the millennial expectations. Because I think, as most of you are basically millennials, I guess, as for the attendees here, I think there are a bit of switch as well in terms of what the millennials are expecting compared to, the previous generations, right? Like now we have seen more and more trends of candidates that are actually asking us, what's the company culture like, how's the team in the companies, what's the career progression, how's the company reputation, what is the mission of or vision of the companies, is it aligned with my values, so those kind of questions are, we have seen an increase from millennial candidates as well. So again, it's not purely just because of salary. Yeah. And again, this was highlighted as well, whenever we are talking to clients, that, this is one of the major pull factor for the candidates to actually join the company. Okay. So, yep. So I think if we can go to the next slide. Okay. So now, with this again, this pandemic ongoing, the challenge is not only for the companies to find suitable candidates, but also for candidates to find the job opportunities, right? So what can you do to be career ready? Okay. So here I can give you like 3 tips to focus on. One, is basically create your personal brand and ensure that you portray your personal brand in your social media in a right way. Okay. So I don't know whether you might be aware or not, but we as a recruiters, we need to find creative ways to find candidates as well, right? And sometimes we go to Instagram, we go to Twitter, we go to Facebook to actually look for candidates. And sometimes not only looking, but we also this for checking, because we just want to ensure that the candidate actually never posted something that is inappropriate in a way. And again, whenever you're posting something in internet, you just need to remember saying that anything on the internet can stays forever. So just be mindful whenever you are posting something, and especially if you put your Instagram, your Facebook, or your Twitter open to public, you're not making it private. Just need to make sure that you're posting the some, you know just be careful when you're posting. Okay. And the next one is your elevator pitch. Yeah. So it will be good if you can actually prepare 1 to 2 minutes elevator pitch that could explain your background, your skills, your achievements, and this pitch can actually be translated into a cover letter when you are sending your resumes to the recruiters or the hiring managers, right? um, Again, no need to be like very long. Make it short, simple, but again, can highlight all your experience, your education, how it actually, and what you have achieved so far, and how your background can actually fit into the job itself. Okay. And then the last one, definitely, whenever you want to apply, normally they will ask you for resume, right? Now you can find so many references in the resume for resume in the internet, right? There are tons and tons of templates available with one Google search away. Okay. Now there is, maybe some of you will think like, okay, is there any fixed template for resume? The answer is no. Because sometimes people will ask, is 1 page enough? Is 2 page enough? Is 3 page enough? Basically there's no specific guideline on that. You again, it really needs to be properly formatted, and it really needs to suit the role that you are actually applying for. Okay, you don't need to make it very long. Again, because like if you are a fresh graduate, normally 1 or 2 pages resume that will be sufficient. Of course, your resume, it will depend on your experience as well. But again, like for example, like for me, I have like more, I think around 10 years of experience. I will try to keep my resume at 2.5 or maximum 3 pages long, and then that's it. Because if you're at my age in a way, you will not need to put a lot of things already, right? Maybe your extracurricular in university, you don't need that already. And if you're currently looking for going to graduate from your bachelor degree or from your master degree, then you don't need to put all your secondary school education or your primary school education in your resume as well. So again, it's up to you, but you just need to make sure that it's actually suitable or it's relevant to whatever job that you are applying for. Okay. And if we can just go to the next slide. I think this was discussed very briefly earlier as well, that we have found that more than 90% of the employers actually agree that soft skills is important in hiring, okay, especially when jobs becoming more automated. Because again, at the end of the day, we still need to have that human touch. Some of the things mentioned here, like creativity, persuasion, adaptability, time management, those are irreplaceable with technology. Yes, technology could help, I agree. You can see that we have a lot of applications like Trello, Dropbox, OneNote, that definitely we can help with your creativity or your time management and those kind of things. But it cannot really replace the soft skill 100%. Okay. And especially again, I want to highlight during this pandemic situation where, the face-to-face interaction is very limited. And most of them, even if you're doing interviews or those kind of stuff, normally it will be done by either Zoom, by Teams, or basically if you do interviews or, calls. It is very, very important for you to be able to portray, your soft skills here as well. Yeah. So, of course, again, I think most of us, we still prefer to have one-on-one, face-to-face interaction when we are doing interviews, because there are a lot of gestures that are not captured if we are talking by phone or videos. But I think, again, because of the condition actually forcing us to step outside of our comfort zone, I think a good preparation for every one of you before you do the interview is going to be crucial as well. Okay. So then we go into the next slide. Just want to highlight here now that most of you, I'm guessing it's either still studying or almost graduate soon. Will your first job be your dream job? Okay. So looking at my experience, I think the first job is actually going to be a really, really good chance for you to try something new, right? It's basically your chance to explore whether this is something that you want to do. If it's yes, then that's good. For example, with me, I know that I want to do recruiting since I did my internship, which is like ages ago, more than a decade ago, right? But even though it's mostly by process of elimination, but still, right? I know that I'm interested in recruiting, and here I am. I've been in recruiting for almost 10 years, but was CAF my first job? No, but I know that I want to do recruiting. Okay, so what I want to highlight here again is basically now that you are at the very early stage of your career, you are going to start soon, you still have very, very long journey ahead. Okay. So don't think too much. In a way, it's supposed to be ambiguous. Just enjoy the ride. Okay, you have a lot of people that you can talk to, and actually, to be honest, I think this event is very, very good because again, it's going to I hope that this we can actually share with you some tips and trick, and also if you have any questions, then you can also approach us. But I think as a graduate, I know that this is a very tough situations right now, but again, I think we all can go through this together. It's just that we need more perseverance in doing whatever we are doing right now. Okay, so I think that's all actually from my side. If you want to connect with us, sorry, if you can go to the next slide, Vega. If you want to connect with us, we do have our Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So do send us a DM, or message us in LinkedIn, and we can basically try to answer your questions. Okay. Okay. All good from my side.
Okay, thank you, Tessa. That was really impressive. That was really, really great to listen to. I think it's time for us to start the Q&A session. There are already dozens of equally good questions here, but I think due to the time limit, I doubted that we can answer all of these questions. So I would just pick some questions and to be answered generally by any of the speakers. So I found this question really interesting. It's quite simple, but I think it's already discussed a little bit, but I think we need to elaborate a little bit more about it. Which is more important, academic or personal experience? Now, either Paul, Dr. Paul, or
Tessa. I'll give that a go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the answer is both. So.
All right.
Because in a person you can't separate the two, really. I mean, yeah. It's as Chris and I said before, it's about the whole person, right? So it's whether you're. I mean, life is not perfect, and as Tessa just said, things will change for you. You might not get the dream job straight away. You'll have to try certain things, and so the academic bit is demonstrates that you are committed to learning. So it's linked to your personal experiences, isn't it? It's linked to your personal experiences because if we can demonstrate that we're open to learning and that we are successful in learning something, it shows an employer that actually you can learn other things. Because there's one word that we haven't alighted on yet, which is the name of my company, which is agility. It's no good just learning one thing and then thinking that's going to be the only thing you need to do for the rest of your working life or your life in general. That's not the way the world is anymore, right? So So actually, yeah, I'm afraid you have to keep learning, and whether that's personal learning, personal development learning, soft skills learning, as Tessa called it, networking, you know, building relationships, or whether it's academic learning, it's all learning. And if you've got downtime at the moment, make sure you find a way to keep your learning going. Not either formally or informally. Keep it going.
Yeah, sorry, if I can just add on here as well. I think the other thing that we have seen for the past years, as few years as well, right? The companies, it seems that the companies are more open, or are more flexible in a way to actually get graduates that are not um, how to say, that are not exactly having the same background with the roles in a way. You know, like for example, if you're talking about startups, right? They can literally get anyone from any kind of major. Okay.
Right.
Of course,
Right.
we still have companies that are still focusing, like, you know, if you're a chemist, then definitely they need someone with chemical graduates major, right? But
Yeah.
you know, if you're looking at startup or tech companies, they will be open with anything, because I think the sector itself is pretty new.
Yes.
They are still absorbing all the relevant knowledge, you know, from different kind of majors. So yeah, it's also a good place for the candidates, or for, basically for graduates, to actually explore their career.
Actually, Tessa, you just reminded me of something very important as well, and which is, look, you know, particularly for the startup or the small business sector, people are looking for entrepreneurship in people. You know, your ability to come up with a new idea, or a new concept, or to create something new from scratch. You know, I think you had creativity, didn't you, on one of your slides? Well, entrepreneurship is very important, and it vital skill set. I mean, they're related to leadership actually, but if you just think if you just think of yourself as I mean, you talked about putting your personal brand together, right? Well, if you just think about yourself as a little mini company, you know, I am Paul Aitken, the entrepreneur, and I can actually generate new ideas for this business, right? Then people will listen to you. You know, you need to be able to innovate, create, be passionate about making the world a better place, or a more efficient place, or a more productive place, or a greener place. Use your creativity. Use your creativity of thought. You know, to put your elevator pitch together, for example, right? I mean, I would love to hear in an elevator pitch a new idea for a particular business, wouldn't you? You know, I mean, even if it doesn't work, the fact that you've actually tried to come up with an idea. Most businesses, of course, in the early stages make a lot of mistakes. Most startups make mistakes, but they learn from them. And more than that, they keep coming up with alternatives, with alternative ideas, right? They learn from failure. So don't think that you have to have every solution for every problem for every business, because it ain't gonna happen, folks. But if you can be entrepreneurial, maybe you even think about your own startup, right? In this downtime. If you can't get into mainstream employment, think about a startup. Why not? Think about your own startup.
That's really great. But I do have a follow-up questions about that. If you want to try about being creative and then making a startup, I think
Sure.
one of the things that we need to pay attention to is networking.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it raises a question like, how do we maintain personal connection in professional context through in the face of limitations during this pandemic? Like, how do
Yeah.
we do that?
Sure, Tessa, you're probably. I mean, I know what I use. I mean, I use LinkedIn, but you might have some different ideas as well around the use of social media on this one, because you're probably more engaged in that process than I am.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, I mean, it depends. I think we have to differentiate with the networks in terms of is it a new network, or is it you already have the network and then you just need to maintain the communication or the relationship, right? I mean, for
Yeah.
those that you have already in your list in a way, then you can do it whatever channel that you have, be it just a quick WhatsApp chat with them, or a quick, like 10 to 15 minutes, catch up calls. There are a lot of ways for you to basically engage with the person. But yes, I do agree, Paul, that if it's new networks in a way, LinkedIn is basically one of the main channel that we could use. And then, guys, again, if we are, let's say we are connecting this with job search, right? It is
Yeah.
actually fine for you to actually send your resume directly through LinkedIn. Just send an email to the recruiters, or send the email to the hiring managers directly. It's
Sure.
fine. It is more in a way that we just don't need to wait, because what I want to share with you also, that not all jobs are actually posted in the
Absolutely.
career site or in
Absolutely
LinkedIn.
right.
There's some things that they might know, okay, I will need this like within a month, but it's not approved yet in a way. And
Right.
when you already approach them, you become proactive. And
Absolutely.
to be honest, I have a lot of people that are actually connecting with me as well, and saying, hey, my name is this, my background is this, do you have any job for me? And that's totally fine. So I think, yeah, again, LinkedIn is basically one of the best channel for you to connect in terms of job search, as well as if you want to pitch for your new startups, or if you want to pitch for or just make a general network, then LinkedIn is definitely one of the best way. Yeah.
And Ego, just to say to people, I mean, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's fine. Do it.
Right. Come with it. All right. Cool. Noted, sir. I will definitely look up to your LinkedIn and try to connect. Another question. This is quite a lengthy one, but I'll just summarize it. So basically, let's say that I'm 29 years old and I want to change my career direction. How is it too late, and how do I compete with the younger ones?
Is it well? The simple answer to the first question is it's never too late, right? I mean, I don't know how many times I've reinvented myself, but I have. I have. I mean, I said to you, I started out as an unemployed graduate in the early 1980s, right? And is that the job? That was in marketing, by the way. The first job that I got, which was remember, I was a graduate. I got a non-graduate job in marketing for Shell, the oil company, right? Did I end up in marketing? No. Am I doing marketing now? Yes. I'm used the marketing skills that I learned, but I'm not in marketing. So you see, life's a journey, and different roles and experiences that sort of they accumulate, they cluster together, over time. So it's never too late. It's never too late to change career, to change direction. But what you must know is you must know yourself. Sorry, you must know who you are, what you want to become, what your personal values are, what your interests are, what your skills are. You need to do this exercise not just once, is my point, right? You need to do it through the years, because your life and your work experience changes. So actually, in terms of competing with older people, I'm afraid to say, in all honesty, that there is ageism, but it doesn't apply to any of you guys, right? Because ageism doesn't really begin until over 45. All right, so if I was competing with, you know, someone in their 20s at the moment, I don't know, for whatever, I'm afraid I wouldn't even get a look in. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much experience that I've got, right? I mean, there is that. I mean, I'm being serious. There is ageism in the system, yes. But at 29, my word, no problem at all, right? But what I'd advise is that you actually seek some careers counselling, some careers guidance, and there are careers counsellors and guides out there with diagnostics that can help you think through whether you're on the right career track, or even generate new career ideas based on your skills, interests, and values. And if anyone wants to know more about that, well, they can contact me. Tessa, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think 29 is not old, okay? So if
I wish.
no, no, you are not old. You know, whoever was asking this, you still have a long, long way to go. Um, yeah, and definitely there's never. I mean, it's not too late. And you know, I'm basically reading your question here. You have working experience in Australia, right? You have the working experience for 2 years, then, which is definitely is also a benefit. You know, that's a plus. So yes, maybe digital marketing is something new for you, but definitely you have something to bring into the table. Okay. So I think again, this is also one of the key things, how you are basically presenting yourself to your future employers, how you are building your personal brand, again, preparing all your cover letter or or the elevator pitch, that's on your preparation stage, right? But moving to marketing, it's I mean, or any kind of sector or any kind of job, if it's a switch or anything like that, 29 is definitely not too late, and it's never too late, because I do have some other candidates previously as well that they have been working in I think I had one that was working in oil and gas in Netherlands for a very, very long time, and then he returned to Indonesia in one of the tech startup, and it's for totally different things, and it's fine, and he's 30 plus, so yeah, it's never too late to change something or to explore something new. So I totally in agreement with Paul on this one.
All right, great. Moving on to the other questions. This might be a question that I kind of like combined from these questions, and also to follow up some of the materials from the presentations. So both Paul and Tessa, you mentioned about the what is it? The marketing trends and the industry shifting quite rapidly, and how do we make sure that we can be better prepared to move through this rapidly changing system?
Tessa, would you like to go on that first?
Sorry, can you just clarify on the questions again, Eagle?
Yeah, like how can we become better prepared for the things we can't precisely predict? I think that's kind of like the initial idea about this rapidly changing industry. Like what do we need to look up to so that we can be better prepared for looking at for any jobs or like maintaining our jobs?
Yeah. So I think there are a few things here as well, right? Like, I mean, if we are connecting to the talent crunch just now, definitely, what we are lacking mostly is in the technology and media, so in the TMT sector. But then again, doesn't mean that everyone needs to be suddenly, learning data science or learning machine learning, right? Yes, that's a hot topic right now. But then we still have the deficit for different categories as well. Okay, so that's one. But the other thing that I also want to, highlight to everyone is basically you need to be agile and you need to be flexible. Okay. And the other thing is basically proactive, because at this again at this difficult time, if we just wait for something to actually land it on your lap, it's not
Right.
going to happen, right? And then if definitely you will need to read more, read in a way that you need to see what's the trend outside, not only Indonesia but also globally. Because like for example, with this kind of all the data science piece, it has been there in Europe and in US for quite some time, but it's just you know arrived in Indonesia in a way like for the past 2 or 3 years maybe, right? So if you know that okay, in different regions, or in different continents, this is the trend, then at least you can prepare early, and you can you can go into the sector earlier than the rest. Yeah. But again, I think be agile, be flexible, and then become you have to be more proactive.
Can I just talk about some global trends, some global changes, one of which we're experiencing right now, right? Which is a pandemic. I mean, let's just take a step back for a minute and just think about what's actually happening across the world. Now, the pandemic is only one of the waves that are hitting us. There are some more waves which I'll mention at the moment, and there are opportunities for people in these waves for alternative careers and different types of jobs that might come through. I mean, obviously, the pandemic is going to generate a lot of innovation in the health and biomedical sector, right? Of course it will. Of course it will, and that will continue. That will continue because we're more interconnected as a world. So viruses are very easily transmittable now across countries. We're all interconnected. So health and biomedical sciences, the innovation around that is going to really ramp up. Okay. The other area that's really already beginning is the climate change, species extinction, and the green energy renewables response, right? So that sector is also going to create a lot more jobs. Whether it's wind farm engineering or creating enzymes that can eat plastic in the ocean, for example, because we're polluting the oceans, right? I mean, there'll be a lot of jobs, innovation in that sector. And the third one, which is an overall one, really, is, and I think you need to talk about this with a lot of employers now when you go for jobs, because sustainability is becoming a key agenda item for businesses. Sustainability. So any interest or any insights that you can have when you're talking to employers about how to maintain their commitment and deliver on sustainability, you will be listened to. And I think it's a millennial. I think it's a millennial. It's not just a millennial ambition and challenge, by the way. It's one of mine. So don't also fall into the idea that other people from other generations, don't think the same way as you do. And on the question of sustainability, I'm all with it, right? But businesses now have to report on sustainability in their accounts. Tessa, you will know this, that you have to report on your sustainability in business accounts, right? So those global trends will also generate new forms of businesses, new products, new services, new ways of working. And you need to come to an employer or think about your own business. If you're thinking of a startup, you need to come to it with those global challenges in mind, because they're ones that we're all facing and we all need to innovate on.
All right. I guess we still have one. I still have a little bit time to answer one last question. what we have here is like, what do you think regarding to generalist or specialist job? If we are in the generalist job, should we need to define our specialty and find a specialist job? And what are the skill sets that we need to have in this era? Maybe because of the time limit, I would need the speakers to answer that briefly, like quickly, so that we can move on.
I think for me it all depends really. I mean, you have to look at the detail of the specification, you know, for the role, as to whether it's, you know, general skills or specific skills, or the sector, the role or the sector or the organisation. I think you just have to do your homework first. I think it's difficult. I think it's a case by case basis, that one. I don't think there's a general rule.
Yeah, I agree. And then, you know, the other thing as well is, you know, if it depends on yourself as well, what do you want to do in a
Sure.
way? Like, you know, for example, if I'm again, because I'm in recruitment, so basically I'm in HR, right? So in HR itself, we have HR generalists, but we have specialists like me that are just focusing all the way in terms of recruitment. Okay, but do I want to be an HR generalist at one, you know, one day? Maybe. Is it now? Not really, because I like recruitment, you know. But you know, if we are looking at, you know, if let's say in the next 5 or 10 years, for example, if I'm looking at, okay, if I want to become an HR director, I need to be a generalist. But do I want that? Maybe not really. So again, it's kind of difficult, or not difficult, but it really depends on you, you know, and it depends on your job. Because I think the other thing also, you know, normally, not normally, but you know, some companies, they will have this different career path as well. You know, sometimes it can be a leader, or
Yes.
leadership position where, you know, this
Yes.
person will need to lead a team. Or if, you know, there's also a specialist job where
Yeah.
it's going to be single contributor all the way, but
Yeah.
this person is going to be an SME, you know, some subject matter expert. So
Yeah.
again, it depends. We cannot really advise you, oh, you know what, you have specialist is the best or generalist is the best. It depends on the it depends on the role, and it depends on what do you want to do, basically.
I agree.
All right. To sum up all of the discussion we have been discussing in this session, it's important to know that we need to be agile, especially in this situation. And we also talked about like the limitless possibilities for the kind of jobs or business ideas generated during this situation. And we also specifically talk about career changing, um, specifically in digital marketing. For those of you who are interested in changing your career, or like getting more information about the digital career trends, I do have a good news for you, as our next Study UK Employability series is on Friday, the 2nd of October, in which the session will talk about digital career trends in the future and opportunity in Swift careers. The session is in collaboration with Motion FM. So for further details, you can look up at IT British Council social media. And I think the time is up for our session today. I would like to thank you, the speakers, for the insights and for the presentations. It was terrific, and it was really helpful, insightful, and I'm so happy to be the moderator. It helped me learn a lot. Thank you for all the participants for joining us today, and see you next time.
Thank you so much. Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Stay healthy. Bye.
Bye.